Hello, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
And today we have a really fun episode. We've got a list for you. The first one in a while, I think. Have we not done one since Batman?
Sounds about right.
Because we did the Nick Cage
Life of an Actor, yeah.
But this is the first list that we've done since our first and second episodes.
Yeah, and I mean we gotta stay on top of these lists. It's a whole we got rankings right there in the logo as something that we do, so we got to stay on top of this.
We've not been living up to the rankings part of the slogan.
It's an ebb and flow, guys. It's an ebb and flow.
Right. Now we'll have too many of them.
Yep.
In quick succession here. But today, to celebrate the release of Top Gun Maverick on May 27th, so coming right up, we are going to be ranking our top 5 Tom Cruise performances. So not movies per se, but his performance in the movie, his best characters. And I'm really excited to get into this. First thing I wanted to ask you guys is how was it for you to kind of rewatch some of this stuff? Because I will say that I came out of this with a far greater appreciation for Tom Cruise as an actor than I had before we embarked on this journey.
Yep. I don't think I'll ever hear you say that of another action movie star ever again.
Except that he's not. Is my point. He's not just ones, that,
obviously, but a lot of his big movies, the ones that he gets or that he promotes, or that get promoted for him, are the big action flicks. So,
right, and which is why I was normally just I don't care. It's a Tom Cruise movie. It's not my thing.
Yeah,
but. Dove deep into a lot of the deep cuts and some of the old classics and a few of the action movies that I had sort of scoffed at before.
Yep.
And I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Nice.
Yeah, I've said for a while, just because there was a stretch there where he was doing a lot of sci-fi movies. There was Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow. And I've always said that it's Tom Cruise, he's so serious and focused and just hyper intense about everything that there's a built-in floor of decent quality that just comes with any of his movies. And even if I wouldn't want to hang out with him, outside of the theater or whatever, if you're going to a Tom Cruise movie, it's going to be at least solid. He's not attaching his name to a piece of garbage. He's giving it 100%, which means it's probably at least solid. And now after watching, I think about 10, 11 of his other movies, I see that applies to really any genre. It's not just Tom Cruise sci-fi. It's pretty much any, whether, if it's drama or an action or whatever it might be, he is bringing it, and his attention to detail and his focus means that it's usually going to be a pretty good time.
Yeah.
Except for The Mummy Returns.
Sorry. Well, exactly. Nobody's perfect.
I like that you brought that up, though, because I did notice that even in some of the movies that I didn't love, I never felt like it was phoned in by anybody. It was they put a real effort into this, and I appreciate that, even if I don't think everything really worked. There is definitely kind of, like you said, sort of a floor of overall quality, just because the effort is so strong.
Yeah. And it's big, and he gets good big budgets for his movies too. I mean, he's been a big name Hollywood star for 30 plus years now, so that doesn't hurt either.
He's one of the only ones left, I think, of that of defining a star by just the definition of that person is in the movie, therefore people are going to see it regardless of really what it is.
If you're going back to late 80s, early 90s, who from that era is still around today doing it like Tom is doing it? Not very many, if any, really. So, it is a testament to him. So, this will be fun. A Tom Cruise episode. All about TC. Who's
Never thought we'd get there.
Yeah. Before we get too far in launching into our lists, I want to remind everybody to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and that's the jazz.
Nice.
All of it.
All of it. Every time.
So who wants to go first?
Let's have Adam start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't get to as many of the older ones that I wanted to see. I haven't seen Minority Report since it came out. I haven't seen Collateral again since it came out. So some of the older ones that I knew were probably going to be decent to good. I remember liking Collateral a lot, him and Jamie Foxx. But my first one is kind of fun. This is his role as Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder.
I know it's under the radar pick. I was hoping one of us would have.
Yeah,
me too. Me too.
It's more of a cameo role than anything else, but that doesn't mean he's not good at it. The scene when he screams at the phone and
which
just
one
loses his mind.
Isn't that like every scene that
Basically.
he's in?
And then the dance at the end, the pop it and whatever he's doing. I just thought that's super fun, and it's kind of him making fun of himself or just having fun with himself, which we don't get to see. Like you just said, he's serious in almost every movie. He takes it so seriously that he really like quote unquote let his hair down and had some fun. It seemed like so.
I'm glad that I'm really glad that you had on there because I also almost put it at number 5 because it's like even though he's only on screen for maybe like 10 total minutes, probably less, he makes his mark on that movie where it almost feels like it's like him and Robert Downey Jr. are like the two things about that movie that people remember.
Yeah.
And like that's impressive seeing that Robert Downey Jr. is one of the main characters and he's basically, like you said, almost cameo level.
Yeah.
But yeah, the line, you're going to have to call the bleeping United Nations and get a bleeping binding resolution to keep me from bleeping destroying you. It's just like...
It's fantastic.
My God, that gets me every time.
Would have been the quote at the end of the episode.
The first time I watched this movie, I legitimately did not know that it was him in the movie.
Yeah.
Until it was over and like the credits rolled.
Yeah.
When he was dancing, I was like, wait a minute, is that fucking Tom Cruise?
Yeah, he's in that fat suit. He's got the suspenders on. He's just like he's got the hair.
I just didn't know who it was.
And... Yeah. So that's why I really thought we'd have a little fun to kick it off.
Yeah, I like that pick.
Dancing around to Ludacris. I mean, that's iconic cinema right there. That's right up there. Kurosawa, Kubrick,
Tom Cruise
dancing to Ludacris. Wow. All right, who's going next?
I can go next.
All right, go for it.
So what is my number 5? Adam, you're going to have to throw it up there. I thought it was,
What is my number 5?
Yeah.
What are these rankings?
What did I even
podcast?
I also have my list like in front of me, so.
Right. So yeah, my number 5 is Vincent in Collateral, the Michael Mann movie with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, where Tom Cruise plays an assassin and gets a cab driver. Jamie Foxx just drive him around all night and drive him to the killings that he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so against type for Tom Cruise. And I was really glad that I watched this. It wasn't the last one that I watched, but it was later on in my Tom Cruise-a-thon, I think as you were calling it on Letterboxd, Dylan.
I have been calling it that, yes.
Yeah.
Super creative name.
Right. You like flowchart that and brainstorm a lot of ideas.
Yep, and just Cruise-a-thon, it just has the best.
Couldn't be beat.
Yep.
I was glad that I watched this though after like several Mission Impossible movies and like Top Gun and just a few others and like rewatching, something like A Few Good Men or whatever. Yeah. It's just so different. Like he's never the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then he just disappeared in that role so well. I do think the makeup helped. Like they sort of bleached his hair and I think he's got a goatee maybe.
The gray suit, the silver fox look.
He's got a little bit of oh God, what's his name? The guy from LA Confidential. Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
He got a little bit of a Guy Pearce look to him, especially like Guy Pearce from now I'm gonna do this again. That Christopher Nolan movie.
Memento,
yeah.
Yep.
A little bit. And I think that helped because if it was just kind of the like good hair Tom Cruise, it might have been less believable, but the makeup helped there. But he was just really good as this just like cunning and like a second away from just blowing a fuse sort of bad guy. And I just really enjoyed the performance. I had never seen Collaterals until I watched it last week. So it ended up being a very enjoyable Michael Mann movie that I would recommend. And Tom Cruise is really good in it.
Nice. Yeah, I also rewatched it, and it's not a perfect movie, but his performance is one of the strong points for sure.
This was the best part for me.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx also no slouch in that movie, so
no.
Yeah, I just find him hard to believe as like a shy introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I watched that, I was kind of thinking like they could have found another guy to play Jamie Foxx's role, and he could have made it work. But I don't think anybody else could have made Vincent work the way that Tom Cruise did. That's kind of the way I looked at it. I was like,
okay,
because like you said, he just totally like disappears into. Him. All right, so on to me for the number 5.
Yep.
All right. My number 5 is from another movie that I had never seen until the Cruise-a-thon. That is
I still can't believe you had never seen this.
Yep. Well, you know what? You can't handle the truth, Nate. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right,
wrap it up, boys. That's it. That's an episode.
All right. Yeah. So as Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee in A Few Good Men, just a classic military courtroom drama. Malfeasance within the ranks. They got an internal investigation, and I just thought like. At first, I was like, okay, it's Tom Cruise playing the same old Tom Cruise character, like leading man. He's super smart. He's super suave. He's always cool.
He's good at softball.
He's good at softball. He's not as good at anything as he is at softball. Right. And basically, like, I think he actually kind of showed me something, because at the beginning, you kind of get this impression you're not sure if he really like cares, or if he's kind of apathetic and kind of like cynically just taking this job as a career move, and he just wants to get back to the private sector. Whereas Demi Moore's character clearly cares a lot and is extremely invested. And then by the end of the movie, you find that he does have morals, and he does have there are more important things. And just him going toe to toe with Jack Nicholson twice. The first scene when they meet each other, and then the second scene in the courtroom is just about as good as it gets. And just them in the courtroom, that scene was just like, all right, this is definitely like peak Tom Cruise right here. So had to make the top 5. That is Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee from A Few Good Men.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, back to you.
Great choice. So my number 4 movie is another movie where he's not the lead, and it's probably a smaller movie that I feel like not as many people have seen, but he is Senator Joseph Irving from Lions for Lambs.
I've never seen this, and I don't even know if I've heard of it.
I've never seen it either. So I've heard of it, but
it's something that our old college roommate Sam turned me on to back in the day.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it's a political movie. It's got let me find it on IMDb real fast, because it's got a stellar cast.
Oh damn! It's got Meryl Streep and Robert Redford.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's
what's it about? What's it about?
So 2 Army Rangers are behind the enemy lines in Afghanistan. They set off a sequence of events involving a congressman, a journalist, and the professor. The professor is played by Robert Redford. He has told them not to go to war, or not to enlist. They have all their their lives ahead of them. They're like top of their class. Don't do it. Meryl Streep is the journalist who's trying to report on why we're over there and what's going on. All the intricacies that are involved in the politics of it and all that thing. And then Tom Cruise plays the congressman who's trying to get elected and is using the war and its efforts and those types of successful missions to boost himself and run for president. Well, not running for president, never announcing it, but him being like the de facto choice. He's just really slimy and suave. Like, you like him, but you hate him because you know what he's doing or why he's doing it. And he really slips into that, like, is always smiling like a perfect congressman, perfect in front of people, while doing just back alley deals and just being slimy behind the line or behind the scenes. It reminds me a lot of the in Parks and Recreation, when Ben and April start working for I think it's a congressman, and he is like so bright and smiley, but he just like stares at a wall. In the office. Like almost exactly that guy, but has a really dark, like, behind the scenes what's going on.
Got it.
Okay.
I recommend it. It's pretty short. I think it's like an hour-and-a-half movie, hour 32. It's not amazing in any one thing that it does, but I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. And I like him in it. Everybody gives a solid performance, which also elevates his role. Meryl Streep's great, and Robert Redford's fantastic. And actually, one of the new students that Robert Redford has is Andrew Garfield. So he's also in there.
Oh, I saw that he was in this movie.
Wow.
It's pretty solid, yeah. So that's my choice. Senator Joseph Irving from Lions for Lambs.
All right.
Nice.
My number 4 is Jerry Maguire from the movie Jerry Maguire.
Oh, look at that.
So
I've never seen this movie.
Same. I was gonna say you haven't seen A Few Good Men, and I haven't seen Jerry Maguire. But basically, all I need to know is show me the money. From what I've been told.
That's it.
I mean, this movie also has one of the cutest kids in movie history in it. Ooh, if you've ever heard the line, "The human head weighs 8 pounds," that comes from this movie. Cuba Gooding Jr. actually outshines Tom Cruise in this movie, but Tom Cruise is really good. Him and Renee Zellweger, he's playing a sports agent who realizes that they treat athletes horribly. Mm-hmm. And he writes a memo where they're like, hey, we should make less money and represent fewer people so we can actually give them the attention and treat them like human beings instead of like commodities.
Yeah.
And then he gets fired because everybody's just like, no, fuck that. And then he loses all of his clients except for Cuba Gooding Jr., who plays for the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
And Renee Zellweger is like an assistant in the office, and she decides she's like very moved by his memo, and she follows him out. And it's a very amusing, like sort of quitting / getting fired scene. Okay. And then he just tries to start his own company, his own agency to represent athletes with this like sort of new vision. Yeah. And it's him and Renee Zellweger trying to start this, and he's only got one client, so he's got to do really well for him or he's going to lose everything. And then Renee Zellweger has this just like adorable little kid that he becomes very attached to. And Cameron Crowe, Dylan, same director as Almost Famous.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, this one and A Few Good Men were like, I watched these a lot as a kid, and they were basically the only 2 Tom Cruise movies I'd ever seen until I was like 18 or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
So he's just really good, and he's on camera a lot, and he's going through a lot of different emotions, and like he just really has to carry a lot of the load here. And I think he does a really good job. It's also got, you've probably seen like a parody of this, or like somebody in a movie watching this movie where Renee Zellweger is crying and says he's crying and says, "You complete me." Mm-hmm. That's from this movie.
Yeah.
So
I think I've seen that scene.
Right.
Like, he like shows up and like her girlfriends are there or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And like her sister's played by, I think, like Bonnie Hunt.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a really enjoyable movie for me. I think Tom Cruise is really good in it, and he needs to be, because he's, I mean, even like more of a lead than he is in something like Mission Impossible, where it's like, just do cool stunts, and if the acting's like okay, the movie's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas this, he needs to be engaging like from start to finish, and he really is. So I like this movie a lot, and I think he's great.
All right, on to my number 4 is one where he does cool stunts and the acting is just okay, so it's okay. And that is, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to throw shade on you. But no, I wanted to.
He's good in these movies. My point is, even if he wasn't that good, they would still work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's good in these movies. He's always giving it his all. He's doing his own stunts, and he's a solid leading man for an action movie. He's very believable as a Bond-esque super spy. But mostly I picked Mission Impossible Rogue Nation because it starts off with that absolutely bonkers airplane stunt, which got a lot of attention when he did it, and still holds up, because how can it not? It's just ridiculous. And then and then why I chose this one specifically is because, you know, he's always so in control and like unassailable and whatnot. And for like the first half of this movie, you know, it's introducing a lot of new characters. It's introducing a big new villain. It's introducing like a femme fatale, kind of mysterious. And he spends like the first hour of this movie just like taking loss after loss. Like he's getting outsmarted. His people are getting killed. His organization is getting defunded. Like, and so the stakes are high, and he's a little bit frazzled. And that's why I felt like, just particularly this movie, for the stunt and for that little bit of vulnerability, like I think that made the Ethan Hunt character, just gave him another layer, just gave him, you know, made him a little more of a real person and not just a super spy action hero. But yeah, this is kind of the placement holder for all of his Mission Impossibles. And when you do that many stunts and put your life on the line and stuff like that, like, all right, I can give you number 4 on your top 5.
Right.
So yeah, Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, but really all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that leads into my number 3, actually. Nice. My number 3 is Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible Fallout, which is the movie following
directly
Rogue
after.
Nation.
Yep.
Directly after.
Which I just finished last night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dylan still has 20 minutes left in it, so don't ruin the ending.
Don't ruin the ending of it. Yeah.
Well, it's ridiculous.
In a good way? More, like the rest of the movie was ridiculous in a good way?
There's a little bit more like CGI in Fallout than there is in any of the other ones. CGI for some of the stunts.
Well, can I just tell you, me and Nate were watching the end of Rogue Nation together and the beginning of Fallout. We only made it. It was already late, and that's like a 2.5-hour movie, so we had to call it. But we made it to the chase through Paris on the motorcycle. And then, man, when he just like limps over those hedges and you think he's going to be caught, and then it shows that he cut a hole and dropped down into the boat, me and Nate geeked. Like, we were both just like, oh, like the audacity. Like,
yeah,
just come on. Like, that's just fun.
I still think that Simon Pegg's suspenders are what sell that entire sequence.
Definitely.
Yeah. So same reasons. This is a placeholder for all of them. I think he's good in all of them. I think he's good in this one. I think he's got in the last two, he's had more to work with. He's got a lot of strife and problems at the beginning of Rogue Nation, and he's kind of figuring things out. And then towards the end of, I don't know where you are in Fallout.
Basically up until the last very climactic.
They're arriving at the village to look for the bombs.
Well, once the village happens and all that stuff. So I think this one is my favorite. I'm also a huge Rebecca Ferguson fan because of these two movies. So like when she slides down that thing and she's got like the slit in her dress and it shows like the whole leg, she slides down, she's like shooting at the guy at the stage. It's just like
badass.
Oh my, you've awakened.
Rebecca. That's from Rogue Nation, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But she's also in this one, and she's
featured heavily in both. But
yeah, she is.
She's so good.
Knees. She's great. So yeah, I'll end my rant there.
I mean, we can turn this into a Rebecca Ferguson appreciation podcast. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, like how much time we got?
We made it halfway through, and she's just taking it.
She beat you out, Tom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's my number 3.
My number 3, Dylan, was your number 4. And that is Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee from A Few Good Men. This was, for a time, my favorite movie when I was younger. Like early teens. Yeah, it's just like so like big and bombastic and like important. And it's just got cool scenes and like great actors. And of course, Aaron Sorkin wrote it and Rob Reiner directed it.
Yeah.
And I love both of them.
Was this in the Rob Reiner like golden streak of?
Yeah, this was the end of it. I think this was the last.
Let me
one.
look. I'll see when it came out, or see.
This was in like 92 or 93, I think.
Okay, it's correct.
And like before this, Rob Reiner did Misery.
And when Harry Met Sally, so he did
Sally, Princess Bride, Stand by Me, and the band Mockumentary. Spinal Tap, yeah.
This is Spinal Tap was 84, Stand By Me is 86, 87 was Princess Bride, 89 was Harry Met Sally, 90 Misery, A Few Good Men was 92, and then like Ghost of Mississippi came out in 96. He had The American President after that.
So
like one a year and they were all just hits.
And they're also different.
Yeah, Misery thrown in there, right after Princess Bride.
But back to Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee. Yeah, I love all the different sides of this character that Tom Cruise plays. Like kind of, the cocksure, like bravado early, where he's just like, I got this, guys. I don't really need to do any work.
Yeah, I don't go to the courtroom.
And then and then to me more kind of like twists his arm a little bit and gets him to at least like kind of play ball and go through the motions. And then he meets Jack Nicholson, Colonel Nathan Jessup, and there's just something there where he's just like, this guy's dirty. And I got to do this. And then he starts believing, and then he kind of hits the wall where he thinks, I tried and it's not going to happen. And then he just reaches that like, fuck it moment.
Well, and if you remember, there's that great scene where Demi Moore, I think it's when he's going to quit, and Demi Moore like dresses him down for like 5 straight minutes. And like, that's just a great takedown.
Calls him a coward.
Calls him a coward, and just like I loved that scene. It was like, yeah, dude, what are you gonna do? Like, man up.
Quit hiding behind the ghost of your father and fucking be somebody.
Like, try to do something.
Apply yourself, please.
Stand for something.
We need it.
And he's just great. And then like it just takes a really good actor to nail. I mean, 2 actors really to nail that epic courtroom scene at the end.
Yes,
it's iconic and incredible, and he just nails everything about this role. So Daniel Kaffee, Few Good Men, love this performance. I should say, I thought going into this started at number 1 of like the ones I had seen and was expecting it to stay there, So excited to tell you about the two that beat it out. But this was a kind of one with a bullet when I started this venture, and then
nice
tells you what I think about the next two.
The top two.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Dylan, on to you.
Right. On to me for my number 3, and that is from the drama The Last Samurai.
Ooh.
My number 3 choice is Nathan Algren from The Last Samurai. He's a vet from, I believe, the Civil War vet. He's got PTSD, drinking problem, and he gets sent to basically be kind of a gun for hire and train the Imperial Japanese army.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's for samurai.
And honestly, like, I kind of remember even when this came out, like, I mean, this is 2003, like, kind of like The Last Samurai played by Tom Cruise, like,
more he got a lot of flack for being the white guy.
Like cultural, appropriation, and like, we're gonna put him in a samurai thing, and now he's a samurai, like, eye roll. But like we've been saying with Tom Cruise things, there's a level of like focus and quality in just like the writing, the cinematography, the characters, the battle scenes are really cool, and I just think that his character goes through so much change from like, PTSD, alcoholic, to basically being a prisoner of war, to kind of totally realizing like this whole other culture and just like diving headfirst into it, risking it all at the end. I just
earning their respect.
Yeah, like this movie definitely would not have worked, or could have definitely not worked with a different leading man. But I just think Tom Cruise, just the focus, the commitment, he just carries this movie, and I think it's a really solid movie. And if you haven't seen it in a while, or you've never seen it, give it a chance. Don't be thrown off by.
I think it is on Netflix right now.
I think you're right.
I can look.
I watched it on Netflix like 2 weeks ago. I just don't know if it's still there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you also watched it. I'm guessing it's not on your list, but like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he's his performance is solid. He's very believable and brings a lot of like emotional weight to kind of his transformation.
This movie was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
It is on Netflix. Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to say. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because it is better than.
They made a ton of money too. So
yeah, I think it gets forgotten. It was sort of the end of the era of big historical epics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it falls below, at least as far as we remember things, like below Braveheart and Gladiator and the Titanic and like even the Patriot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like people just kind of forget this movie, because after that there's like Troy and Alexander, and it just kind of started to fizzle out. And this one just kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I totally agree. This is something I'm really glad that I finally watched, and I liked it way more than I thought I would.
All right.
Nice.
Back to Adam for number 2.
Back to me. Number 2 is Tom Cruise as Cage in Edge of Tomorrow.
Nice. This is another honorable mention for me, for sure.
Yeah, this is part of that like sci-fi stuff that he was getting into. This movie was way better than I thought it had any right to be, in my opinion. I really liked it the first time I saw it. I also really enjoy that. I guess like some of his movies, he's cut down at the beginning. He's like high and mighty, like. Yeah. Go ahead.
He's flawed. He can't fight, and he's thrown in. He's thrown on the front lines where he definitely doesn't want to be, and he's basically like very cowardly, trying to get out of it any way he can.
Yeah, he was like some high-ranking dude behind a desk, and then gets thrown into fucking basic as a grunt, and is like, I don't think so, and that's tries to pansy out, and
after a whole career of being the leading man in that type of movie, it was nice, and that's why I also had this as an honorable mention. It almost made my top 5, is because for the first 30 minutes he's he's a detriment. He's worthless, and then he obviously there's a whole character arc there, but I'm glad you had this on here.
Yeah, I think, again, it's another, he ends up becoming that hardcore badass he's known for in his action movies, and he plays that super well as well. He's also like playing off of Emily Blunt, who's the more experienced badass in this universe, which is learning from somebody else, which is also cool.
Emily Blunt just kicking Tom Cruise's ass for like an hour.
Oh yeah.
Giving him shit like, you got to be better. Or like the scene when they're the montage of training, when they've got the things like spinning around and he's got to like dodge them, and one just like comes over and cracks him, and he like is on his back, and he's like laying at a weird angle, and she's like, "Nope, I don't think so," and just jacks him in the face. Just shoots him in the face.
repeated
Like, no, wait,
executions. I know.
He's gonna do it all over again. It just happens over and over. Like that training would have taken forever. I just think it's a lot more fun. So I'm giving the movie a lot of credit as well, but he's obviously the lead, and I think towards the end when they have their emotional type scene, it also is actually believable coming from Tom Cruise. I feel like sometimes because he can be so serious, he can seem a little wooden in those moments, and it actually played out like pretty well. So
nice.
Number 2.
All right, over to you, Nate.
All right, my number 2 is from I needed to. I was trying to remember what I had at 1.
I was like, do I put it up? Like, what's he doing?
Yeah,
like, is he
sorry,
remembering?
took a second. My number 2 is from a movie that I actually didn't like that much.
Okay,
fair enough.
It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. You know, the character Frank T.J. Mackey from Magnolia. There are parts of Magnolia I like a lot, but with the kind of like multiple storylines threaded throughout, there were some of them I just didn't care about very much. But one of them I liked was the story of Frank T.J. Mackey. Not because he's an interesting person, really. He's awful.
Yeah.
But the energy that Tom Cruise brings to this performance makes him so, I mean, he's charismatic and you just like can't take your eyes off him.
Yeah.
And the energy, like just that energy level. And he just feels like he could scream at any moment about anything. But it's kind of controlled too in a way, but feels like it might not be for long.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting performance and something unlike anything else I've seen him do. It really I've never really seen a role quite like this, I feel like.
I haven't seen this, so I'd be interested to check it out.
It's 3 hours and 8 minutes long.
Never mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of different storylines, but basically, Adam, this Frank T.J. Mackey character is basically like how would you describe it, Nate? Like a motivational speaker, but for kind of like
he's a very misogynistic motivational speaker for men.
Oh, so he's a complete douchebag.
Yes.
he's honestly kind of a foreshadowing of media personalities that we live with now, honestly.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Honestly, if he was a real person, he'd be running for the Senate right now.
Yeah, or the main person on like Fox News.
In a deep red
like
state, he'd probably
Tucker.
already be sitting in office.
But
like you said, he also has this magnetism. He has this presence that's just like you said, you can't look away, even though it's like, oh, vile. And like clearly he's compensating for internal pain, which then you get to peel back the onion.
That's kind
layers.
of the second half of his character's story.
Okay.
It becomes more internal and personal when he's no longer on stage.
Okay.
And part of it too is we watch him give an interview with a reporter, and that's where he like also really shines because it's got that sort of shield. He's got that shield up, that bravado and that like faux confidence. And she just like slowly starts to pick away at it, and he gets really, really angry. And then he like goes back out and screams to some like lonely, desperate men about how awful women are some more. Yeah. And it's just, he's terrible, but I couldn't look away.
Yeah.
That's the mark of a good, like, quote unquote villain. Like, you know, you're entranced by their performance.
Well, he's definitely not like there aren't villains in this movie. It's kind of the but I just specifically wanted to mention that because it's like kind of the point of the movie is like you see people doing maybe some bad things or maybe some good things, and then like PTA just like really you dive deep into the souls of these people, and it's very empathetic even for its worst people like Mr. Mackey here. But Tom Cruise is phenomenal, and couldn't look away from his performance in Magnolia.
Nice.
Good choice.
All right. My number 2 is a movie that we have already mentioned. Nate had it on his list, and that is Vincent from Collateral.
Yes.
This is why I'm sad I didn't get to it.
Yeah, Adam, I think so.
Look at it this way, Adam. If you had watched this, you probably wouldn't have talked about his character from Tropic Thunder.
That's true.
True.
We got that at least.
Yeah. And I had seen this before, maybe even a couple times. I definitely saw it in theaters and then maybe once since. But I really enjoyed this rewatch of it. Like Collateral has flaws. It's definitely Michael Mann. It's not as like sharp and well put together as like Heat, but there are still some things from Heat that he can still do very well. And I think one of them is write a badass criminal leading man. I think you could take if you take Detective Hannah and Macaulay from Heat. I think Vincent just like is right on their level as far as like a character that you can build an entire movie around, and that is just so well written and sharp and like so perfectly cast that it just becomes like when he's Vincent, it's just like you said, he's not Tom Cruise anymore. And it's like crazy because I've watched, at this point I'd watched like 6 Tom Cruise movies in a row, especially the older ones like Risky Business and stuff. And here he is, just, it was like, who is this guy? He's just dark and cold, and some of the lines like totally had me I mean, like, you don't have enough trunk space, and like the they got a real witness for the prosecution look to me. Like, like just a lot of witty one-liners, and the chemistry with Jamie Foxx is good. So I had a really good time. I think that he totally makes this movie. And if you're just looking, if you watch Heat and you're like, man, 2 badass like characters, actors, that was a great time. Like, I want more of this. Give me more. I think Collateral, it's not the purest shit, but it'll get you by. Cause like Tom Cruise just, and like, I also read or was watching this thing about the making of, and he went, of course, Tom Cruise went into all this in-depth like military training on like handling guns and like fighting techniques. So like the club scene when he's rolling around on the ground and hitting the poses and letting off shots and everything, like it is all like military level, like precision, just like they had the guys do for the shootout in Heat. So just really a great role. He just gave it his all. And Vincent from 2004's Collateral was my number 2.
Nice.
All right. Now I got to go rewatch it. I got to convince
you. You really do. Yeah.
It's on HBO Max. It's just sitting right there for you.
It's sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We made it to our number ones.
We did. And my number 1 is something we've mentioned a couple times. Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee from A Few Good Men.
Nice.
How can you beat this performance? How can you beat this movie? Like, we've already talked about like why he's so good, why it's so good. I don't really have to elaborate, but it's the courtroom scene. Like, you can't handle the truth. Like, just baiting him into that whole bit is like, I can basically recite that. Like, when it happens, like I've seen it so many times. Just going through all of it.
There's an episode we should do.
Yeah.
We each pick like a scene that we think we can recite start to finish.
Oh my god.
Or we just do a scene. We just do a scene with the 3 of us.
Just a really bad table read.
Pretty much.
Let's do it. I'm in. But that
there we go. That's the segment. Bad table reads.
There you go.
Like you said earlier, when they meet at Guantanamo, and he just doesn't like him to start. He's that whole back and forth, the mind game they have. It's just bravado, and I mean, it's the military, so everybody thinks they're top shit. Mm-hmm. Them just going back and forth and having that mind battle. There's nothing bad about this movie, in my opinion. I like every second of it, and Tom Cruise is phenomenal when he's thinking with his bat, when he's down on his luck, and just really standing in the rain, just being being a sad sack. It's like, dude, just get off your ass and go figure it out, and then he does, and it's just fantastic.
I really liked how they, when they're planning on like that they're going to put the lieutenant or the general on the stand, and Tom Kaffee's just like, he wants to tell us the truth. Yeah. Like he wants to admit, he wants to shout it from the rooftops that he'd do it, and he'd do it again, and there's nothing wrong with it, and we just have to let him. And then you see that play out exactly like that in the scene, where just even the facial expressions that Tom Cruise has, it's like this excited, like, come on, man. Like he just wants it.
Like, tries not to smile.
Like, here we are. We're both doing it. Like, and then when he finally does, that expression of just like, I got him. Like, just great courtroom scene all time.
Yeah. I love the look on his face. Like the sort of shock, like, holy shit, this worked.
Yeah. I played you, son. Like, I got you good. So yeah, A Few Good Men. Nice. Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee, Tom Cruise's greatest role, in my opinion. So,
all right. And before we get to Nate's, let's just mention that me and Nate both have the same number 1.
I was just going to say, we have the same number 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So just go for it.
I can't throw them both up at the same time.
From a movie that I watched for the first time 2 days ago, and Dylan watched for the first time yesterday.
Yep.
and that is 1989's Born on the 4th of July from Oliver Stone, where he plays Ron Kovic. This is, I just think, beginning to end, and the range that he shows, to me, the most impressive Tom Cruise has ever been on screen.
Agreed.
Agreed. I didn't really know anything about this movie until we started doing this list too, which is why doing these lists are so fun. Because, yeah, I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen it. And then I read about it and I thought, this sounds so up my alley. Why have I never watched this movie before?
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that I did. I'm sorry. I'm trying to bring it up on the IMDb.
No, I agree. This is the type of movie that I feel like I could have easily just like, it would have been under the radar and I could have gone my whole life without ever watching because I just didn't even know it was out there really.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what this is about, Adam, I don't think you've seen this.
I haven't, no.
So the biography of Ron Kovic, paralyzed in the Vietnam War, he becomes an anti-war and pro-human rights political activist after feeling betrayed by the country he fought for. Little tidbit for you guys here, because I know how much you love tidbits.
We love them.
This is also, his biography is what inspired Springsteen to write the album Born in the USA.
Wow.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. And I mean, Dylan, if you want to kind of take over here, just because I'm struggling to kind of put into words what makes this performance so good.
So I think what makes it good for me is, so Adam, I mean, we just mentioned, he becomes an anti-war and pro-human rights political activist after feeling betrayed by the country he fought for. But him actually becoming that and like his political speaking career is like the last 20 to 15 minutes of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Most of it, almost all of it, including like the first 20 minutes is him as a kid. I mean, like a kid growing up, good, hometown, classic American exceptionalism. It's the 50s, and we just won the war and we're going to grow up and just have the best life
4th of July
ever.
And fireworks and baseball and John F.
He's
Kennedy
a wrestler,
inspiring speeches. And
he's a wrestler. He's going to go places. And it works because like, it seems like he starts off playing the confident, hopeful, leading man that he had been playing in his real career to that point. Like, he is 100%. Like, that's how I kind of looked at it. Like, oh, yeah, he's typical Tom Cruise role for the first 30 minutes until he goes to Vietnam and we get a brutal war scene in Vietnam where, like, one bad thing after another happens and eventually he gets gunned down, paralyzed from the waist down. He, can never have kids. And basically it then follows him to the veterans like hospital where he has to go into rehab. And that's where we start to see, and this is what's crazy about this movie is I think it gets better as it goes on because that's where his worldview starts to crack and change. And it's so like heartbreaking,
just enough,
because he's still telling the doctors like, no, like I will walk again. And like, I fought for my country and I'm a hero and like, I'm not going to let this. And he's trying to stay and he's, he just won't let it go. But it's like, no, like you're in an awful situation. And then he starts to realize one person at a time that like the people in this country, like don't really respect him or think he was on the right side or like, and so then he goes home.
And we also get like, he's holding on to this a lot too. Like when he's in the hospital is when we start to see on the TV, just like some protests against the war. And he at the time hates these people.
Yeah, makes sense.
He starts screaming. He screams, "Love it or leave it," like a lot. He takes it all very personally. He goes home, like Dylan said. Like his brother has been like an anti-war, like speaking out against it, and like big argument there. Yeah, and the town is very receptive, but he starts to feel more and more isolated, and it's just like slowly pitied, and slowly cracking. There's a great scene. A lot of this is just due to like Oliver Stone nailing this scene, but the PTSD when he's speaking at the 4th of July parade, is really heartbreaking. And he gets drunk one night and goes home and is just like screaming about all the injustices, and he's just starting to crack. And it's just a movie about somebody whose worldview is shattered, and then how he responds to it, not always well, and then how he's able to like actually find a new purpose and change as a person, which as we know now is harder than ever for people to do.
Yes.
But it's just a really powerful performance and like so many layers of this character. And I thought it was fantastic.
There's also a really fantastic part, I'd say like 2/3 of the way in, when he's kind of going off the deep end. And he hears about this place in Mexico with other disabled veterans where you can basically just go and get drunk and hang out with prostitutes all the time and do drugs. And he goes down there, and Willem Dafoe plays the other guy who's also in a wheelchair, also like going through the exact same thing he's going through. And like, I just thought like their chemistry right from the beginning, like it's like a 20-minute kind of thing, like segment. And it just goes from like, Willem Dafoe being like, this is the best place in the world, right? And then you see that he clearly has demons. He has not accepted what has happened to him. He can't handle it. And then there's a great scene where they get kicked out and they like drive way out into the desert, and then they're being rude to the cab driver, so he kicks them out in the middle of the desert. So it's just two guys in wheelchairs in the middle of the desert in Mexico just yelling at each other. Just yelling about the war and about the country and about like who's gonna love us, who care. Like I just
and which one of them experienced more trauma.
Dude, it feels very present to now almost. Like we just hear what you guys are saying. Like look at
this movie still matters a lot. It's really good. I'd recommend it for a lot of people.
Yeah, so this was after I was pretty much floored by his performance, and I just think you get such a range, such a start to finish point, and he's so good at showing the internal pain and struggle, but also still determination, but then like losing that determination and then regaining it. Like I was just really blown away by this movie. This is definitely my favorite Oliver Stone movie. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
And, I really, really liked it. And it's because of his performance. I mean, he carries it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll have to check that out too. Shoot, I got to rewatch Collateral and find Born on the 4th.
Carve out some time for Born on the 4th of July.
I did want to add, just because it's like 2.5 hours. It's long, but honestly, I would have liked a half hour longer toward the end where we actually see him becoming more involved in the like giving speeches and in the anti-war movement. Because you kind of get to the end and then they're like, and then it's what you know.
And then that's his life.
Yeah, because when this was made, he was well known enough where they probably felt, well, we don't need to show all that because everyone knows his speeches and everyone knows, right?
All that stuff.
Yeah.
It's
but
not
for me, like
right now.
31 or 32 years later, I would have liked a little more at the end, but it's really, really good. And I did just want to give an honorable mention because it's so against type for me. I did watch some of these Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
I really like them.
Yes. Success. We've done it, Dylan. We've done it. We've made him an action
victory lap for Dylan and Adam.
I watched 1, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
And the reason for that weird order is because mostly I wanted to watch Fallout because I had heard it was like incredible. But then I thought, and I was like, well, the types of movies they are, I could probably just watch Fallout and be fine, but I should also at least watch the first one.
Yeah.
So I watched the first one with the plan of then just watching Fallout. But then I saw that Brad Bird directed Ghost Protocol. And I love Brad Bird. So I was like, well, I might as well watch that one.
Yep.
And then I owned Rogue Nation on my Vudu account already because it was one of the movies that my brother chose when we signed up to like pick these free ones. So I've just had it on there for years. And I was like, well, if I'm going to watch 6 and I've watched 4 and I own 5,
might as well.
I might as well watch 5. Yeah. And I'm really glad I did because they introduced Sean Harris and Rebecca Ferguson, who are both amazing, by the way.
Yep.
Perfectly cast.
Yeah. And they start to get a little funnier with Simon Pegg in there. They're not like, I wouldn't call them action comedies, but there's enough humor in there.
It's jovial. It's for sure like it's a different tone.
The constant serious tension.
Yes.
Yeah. Like 1 is all serious tension all the way through.
Yeah.
You killed my team.
Right. And number 3 is a lot like that too with Philip.
Yeah, I didn't watch 2 or 3 yet, but I just really enjoyed these movies, and I'll definitely be watching. Especially, I now own 5 and 6, so Rogue Nation and Fallout. I'll be watching those again at some point for sure. I think I gave all 4, 5, and 6 a 3.5, like just across the board.
Okay, and there's
it was really fun. It was fun having you come over, Nate, and like. Normally, when you come over on like a weekend to watch
400 blows.
Watch a movie, it's a French movie or a Kurosawa or
Paths of Glory,
or some super indie drama that no one else would want to watch with us. and instead it was like some weird surreal like some like alternate universe where it's like, oh yeah, Nate's gonna come over, we're gonna rip some Mission Impossible movies, like we might
Order
well
a pizza and have some brews,
wings.
bro.
Like literally. Oh, but it was a good time, and I had
That's
a great
awesome.
time, and I agree. They're just really fun and high quality, fun action movies. That's what they are, and they know what they are, and they're good at what they are.
They are.
That's a part of it for me, is they know what they are, and they take themselves seriously as far as like the action goes, but they don't take the plots super seriously.
Like they make it convoluted and interesting, but they're not like diving into and adding like a bunch of extra stuff on top of that.
There's an element of like, this is ridiculous. We know, we just need to get to the scene where he climbs a skyscraper.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like cuts out a window and like sneaks in and like changes his face and gets a mask or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, Fallout has easily the best face mask reveal.
Which is saying a lot because there are a lot of face mask reveals.
But I texted you about it because you've gotten to that part, haven't you? With the Simon Pegg, Sean Harris one. I was like, oh
yes.
It was great.
Yeah, that was sweet.
I still maintain that at the end of the last Mission Impossible movie, they need to take off Tom Cruise's face and tell us that it was Tom Hanks all along. Final scene of the last
scene. Oh man, that would be great. And then like make it super meta. Like he takes it off, it's Tom Hanks, and then Tom Hanks like drives into like his Hollywood house. Like this whole thing is. He's just been doing this since the 90s when he got famous.
Let's just say Tom Hanks did like some insane stunt, like truly insane stunt. Like, jumps out of a plane with no parachute or something. He's like deuces. just fades out. Credits start to roll. Like
yep. The other honorable mentions I wanted to say, one was Valkyrie. I thought that he was really good. It's tough when you know the ending to the movie going in, like you know that they don't succeed. So like, how do you squeeze the drama out of that? I just felt like he was just a rock solid leading man, moral indignation. I'm a German, but I hate the Nazis too. Like, yes. And of course he nailed that. And then the other one I wanted to just mention was Eyes Wide Shut, which I did not include. I haven't reviewed it on Letterboxd yet because it's just like, what do you even say about that movie?
Yeah, it's so
where do I
weird.
Start? It's so weird. Like on the one hand, there's a lot of really great classic Kubrick long scenes of him and Nicole Kidman or whatever, like him talking to somebody, the scene at the end with his friend in the pool table room, right? Really long monologues that I think he nailed. And I think that what he was asked to do, he did really well, but like, he was married to Nicole Kidman at the time. So it's like this weird kind of like they're playing a married couple cheating on each other and they are married. And like, I guess at the end, I felt like more of what makes that movie or the good parts of that movie, I felt like were Nicole Kidman's performance, her monologues, and then just like Kubrick's overall direction and what he does behind the camera, not necessarily Tom Cruise. So that's why I didn't include it. I thought that he was very good, but that movie is just so weird and kind of hard to categorize.
Strange.
I even don't really know. That's why I haven't posted it too, because I don't really know what to rate it. Like rank
just gonna mark it watched.
I think I know. Like I think there's parts that are really genius, and then there's other parts where it's like, okay, Stanley, you're kind of being a horny old man right now. Like let's peel it back a bit.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is. But so those two movies, Valkyrie and Eyes Wide Shut, also really great performances, but just didn't quite make the cut. And of course, Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Any others we want to mention? I suppose if there's any others that you want to talk about the roundup, we can circle back around. But anything else? Or I guess whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
Adam's got it.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, take it away.
How can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods?